Oh, you're going to put some makeup on, right?
Shut up.
How's the lighting for me? Okay. I guess it's
Huh?
okay. Should I introduce you?
Yeah,
No.
absolutely.
Oh,
Do I
okay.
need no introduction?
Well, I guess if they're here, they already know you. Best-selling author,
Oops.
woman about town, um, OnlyFans creator,
What does woman
most of the
about
time.
town mean?
That means you get around, baby. That means when I tell you about the book of Tinder, that you could write a book on Tinder about
Yeah.
Tinder and the
Uh-huh.
number of dates on, that's what it means.
Oh my God. Oh,
And just so
cheers. I
the
have a
audience knows,
cocktail. I need
I have
one.
water.
Oh, you're so good.
Well, I have to be very careful.
By the way, I was just reading an article before we got on here. It showed up on my, it showed up as one of those things that Apple suggests, and I wonder why they suggested this. But how the number of you increase your risk of throat cancer dramatically if you've had lots of oral sex with
I've
different
heard the same thing.
partners. Have
So
you?
I don't know. Well, I don't know if I told you the story, but let's call them Mr. and Mrs. Steele
Uh-huh.
had a big party at their estate, and there were 25 people around the dining table. I was giving a heartwarming speech about, my friends and how thankful and everything. And then Mrs. Steele decides that was the moment to tell me is that blowjobs cause throat cancer. And I'm like, in front of all these, it was the oddest thing I've ever had happen to me. But yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, they say that it's quite dramatic, actually, the increase. And if you have over like 6 or 8 partners, that yeah, you're at more
Well, I
risk.
avoid that at all costs now. I know you're different because you even watched videos on how to get good at blowjobs way back in the 90s.
Well, listen, I've never been so happy to acknowledge that I've never been into them. I mean, I've only given them to people I've really loved. I'm not one of those people that's just sucked random dick. Yeah, so
Yeah,
not
me
my
neither.
thing.
Yeah, no,
Ugh.
exactly. Not
So,
my thing at all.
but I think the younger generation has been so quick to do that. And yeah, it's not good that there's ramifications. It's because of HPV, apparently.
Oh, so if women get the vaccine, then that avoids that, right?
Yeah, I don't know much about it. But
All
anyway,
we
it
know
was a
is that
shocking
what we
stat.
really just wanted to get across to the viewer is that you watched VHS tapes, specifically rented gay VHS tapes back in the 90s to learn how to give blowjobs. That's what we wanted to talk about.
Oh my God, I had no idea. I mean, they're called blowjobs, but clearly you suck. And so I was like, okay, well, first of all, I don't get that. Am I supposed to be blowing or am I supposed to be sucking?
Oh my God. I could just see you on the first time blowing away, and the guy's like, what the hell is going on? And it would make that funny sound like, the.
It's like trying to blow up one of those balloons.
Well, the one thing though, the safe part about
Oh
that
my
is if
God.
the guy comes, you're blowing it out the other way. On the bright
You
side,
know,
on the upside.
oh, yes. And I need that because that's the thing is that I've hardly ever had that experience because I've warned them all, like the ones I've loved, the few people I've given blowjobs to, the men that I've loved, that do not come in my mouth because if you do, it's not going to be pretty. Because when it happened once with the man I'd lived with for 10 years, long-term relationship, I went, and it all came out on his stomach. And he
That's
said,
so sexy.
that's what he said. That's exactly what he said. He said, oh my God, that's so sexy. Oh. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, but I warned you. Like, don't come in my mouth. I've got gag
But
reflexes.
but you do realize that when you're sucking a guy, and now that we know that you not blow, you suck, that you're getting a lot of pre-cum. Like you're
Yeah,
taking a
but you've
ton
been
of.
saying that, but I mean, it's different, I think, than when they actually come in your
No,
mouth.
it's the
Like,
exact same thing, other
yeah,
than
but
the
it's so little that
volume.
it doesn't create the gag reflex in me that
Okay.
like when it came,
Just
I
I
was just
just
like,
want to know that you are drinking it, just so you know. I just
minuscule
wanted to be
amounts.
clear.
Yes, and
It's
my lover
true.
tells me that it is so good for me. And I have to say that taking it in the place where I believe is more natural to take it for me anyway. Um, that it is really good for me, but taking it in the place that I'm actually eating food.
So is this a G-rated podcast? Like, can we not say
no, it's not
because you're saying
G-rated.
this place and that place? You're saying you like it in the vagina,
Yes,
not
I
in
do,
the.
but I hate that word. It's such an unsexy.
Oh.
Talk about
Well, do you
unsexy.
want
I
to
think
say cunt?
vaginas.
What do you want to say? A moist, warm cunt? I don't know. You tell me what you're comfortable with, and we'll stick with
You're
that.
so rude. What is it? I like the word pussy, personally.
Seriously, you have told me in many conversations that you do think there's health benefits from your boyfriend coming in your pussy.
Yes, I feel very empowered when that happens. And it turns me on even more. Like there's something about it that's very feral and sort of biological. I don't know.
Don't you think that's just biological programming? Like at the end of the day,
Yeah, it could be.
Men are programmed to put seed inside of women, and women are programmed to accept that seed and turn it into a baby.
Yeah. Yeah. So I get this incredible feeling of sort of love and desire and all of that when he comes. And normally I don't come at the same time. Let's be real. The majority of women don't come from penetration. And so the majority of the time I don't come at the same time. And that just makes me like so primed to come once he's come inside me.
Now, do you also want to share? And first of all, we should clarify that anything seen in these podcasts from now until the end of time have no scientific bearing. We stand by nothing. But you've also told me you think it makes your tits bigger too. I've yet to read that anywhere else other than conversations with you.
Oh, shit. That is not what I said.
You did. You said it makes your breasts bigger.
No, darling. That's not what makes the breasts bigger. Him playing with the boobs and sucking them and, biting them. That's what makes them bigger.
Oh, so I must have misunderstood.
Not the sperm.
Oh, sorry. I thought all powerful sperm made your breasts bigger. Sorry.
No,
see, it's good that we're rehashing these conversations because I'm learning something.
Mm-hmm.
So he manhandles your breasts and that makes them bigger.
Yes.
But just to be clear, I've not read that anywhere either in a scientific article that that's true. But
so I'll tell you what's so interesting about that is I looked that up because clearly it was clear to both of us that my boobs had increased, and it wasn't as though my jean size had changed. Like I was still the same size in my clothes, but my boobs had increased. And there's no way that when I gain weight there. I gain weight elsewhere first. And so we knew that, and he kept saying, I think that it's like your boobs have gone. I'm like, yes, it's from all the manhandling. And so then I look it up, of course, and all the articles that you read from the scientists and the doctors say that there's no proof and there's this and that nonsense. And then you read the anecdotal evidence from actual humans who are experimenting with it in the field, so to speak. And this is what people have noticed. I'm not alone in this. And so, everybody says the scientists. Well, the scientists have been not that right on lots of things. They evolve just like the rest of us do. So I absolutely vehemently disagree with those so-called scientific articles that say, oh no, there's no proof of it. I have proof in my own body, and that's all the proof I need. And then you see all these other people that have anecdotal proof about it as well, of their own, based on their own experience, which is very, very valid in my opinion.
Okay, well okay, I take back what I said earlier, viewers. This is a very scientific show, and you can basically believe everything that's being told.
Please, my darling, don't even get me started. The pandemic, well, yeah, it just showed me that people have to think for themselves a lot of the time. Don't just blindly go along with what scientists all say. Anyway, don't even get me started on that, as you well know.
Exactly. I'm not up for that today. Then I would need a martini. I think we should stick to talking about your pussy.
Oh my God. We just got right into it, didn't we? Like, talk about no messing around. Like we got right into the dirty stuff right off the start.
And the funny thing is, messing around is your specialty. And we went right past that.
What do you mean? The interesting
what are we going to call your handsome man toy?
Oh, my lover, my current lover?
Yeah, since we're not using any real names.
My lover. Yeah.
Your lover?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you don't want to call him Mr. Big or something like
Well, that
that?
one's been taken. I mean, I would call him Mr. Thick.
Like not so smart? Not very nice.
And not he's not chunky either, other than in certain areas that matter.
Oh, so now you're G rating it again. We have
So
to
what
all
should we
guess
call
the
him?
area.
Call him Mr. Broad,
Well, what do
Mr.
you call him? You still haven't come up. So you call everyone, I used to think it was just me, my darling. And you used to call a former lover my precious. And this guy
Yes.
you call nothing other than you just called him thick.
Don't make me choke on my vodka. No, I know he's upset that I don't have a nickname for him, but you know, nicknames have to be off the cuff, and they can't be
But should they
planned.
take this long? No, seriously. Should it be this long that you haven't come up with a nickname?
Well, I call him all sorts of things. I mean,
so maybe people should send in like some ideas on nicknames.
Well, that'd be great.
So like the thing we should just say is that he's a very handsome guy. He's more similar in age to you than you've ever had before. We can talk
not that
about
I've ever had, but yes.
Well, yeah, okay. You've got around again. We've got to establish that you've been around the block a few times in a good way. And literally, like, don't let me forget the Beverly Hills story. We definitely have to talk about the Tinder Beverly Hills story. That's a great one. But you've been, you know, with a fair number of guys. So he's a handsome guy. He's similar in age, very athletic, surfs every day, volleyball every day.
Well, let me just say, he's a couple of years younger. He has very broad shoulders. He has a big chest. He's 6'2". Those things drive me nuts. And he is virile and horny, and he has a sex drive like no other. I mean, and I love that so much. He's always ready for it. Even like,
so the nickname should tie
multiple times
that.
a day.
I literally first of all, we'll have to get into that in more detail multiple times a day at his age. But yeah, it should have
he's
something
2 years younger than me at his age.
No, I know, but look, realistically, I don't think 50-something-year-old men normally come multiple times a day. I just want to throw that out there. If anyone wants to disagree with me, feel free, and then offer proof and evidence, which means videos and everything. Other than that, but no, seriously, if anyone has a good idea for Jacquie, who's usually great at nicknames, although when I say that, she kind of just sticks to two, for this man that she loves, would be great, right? And I think it has to do something with, I don't know, driving. I don't know, something.
Yeah, his sex drive, his big cock, oh my God, his broad shoulders. Oh,
like maybe BC, like you know, you lived in the province of BC. Maybe call him BC lovingly.
It has to roll off the tongue. It has to be natural. It has to be spontaneous. You know, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, it'd be nice.
Do you worry that since it hasn't come in so long that it's not? That's a good one, right? Hasn't come in so long. That's not the case with him. But do you think that because you haven't had a nickname that's come to mind, so to speak, by now, that you're worried it might not ever come?
No, I'm not worried, because worrying is the one thing that'll block anything. No, I'm not worried. Okay. It's meant to be, and he loves it. I know that darling was your name, and I don't call everyone else darling, but darling, well, you know, it's become my OnlyFans thing. But up until I started OnlyFans, you were the darling. And he loved being called darling. So I call him darling because he loves that. But I love it when he calls me baby love, or he calls me my love. Like when I come downstairs and I go, baby, and he goes, yes, love. Like he has this thing where he answers me as yes, love. And I love that when he says yes, love. It just feels so good.
That's cute. Well, maybe baby's good enough, no?
Well, I mean, you know, there's been lots of younger guys in my life that have been baby, and I feel like he's not really a baby. It slips out sometimes. I don't call him babe, and that's also been a common one for lovers in the past. But I feel like he's my love. You know, I really feel like my love he's my love. He's the first guy that I ever thought that I'd actually maybe get old with, because that's never been a thing for me. So
Get old.
fuck off.
This is the best comedy show I've ever seen.
My darling, who the hell needs enemies when they've got friends like you? Like, what is going on?
What are you talking? I'm just trying to find the humor in things. That's all. I'm trying to make you funny. That's what I'm doing.
Just one friggin' crow slide across the bow after the other. Oh
No, but in
God.
saying that, what woman do you know that has more younger guys attracted to them than you?
Yes, well, I know it is a phenomenon, but that women experience. But yes, I've been blessed in that regard.
It's true, and I know I've been friends with you for how many years now?
Oh shit, I think it's nearly 30.
Almost 30. And the number of times that guys have come up to you and said on the street, "Oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, I just had to stop and tell you," like, no, many times.
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't had that in the last little while, but I used to get it a lot.
Well, you haven't been out on the street enough. You've been in front of your computer. You get it on the computer.
I get it all the time in front of my computer. Yes, all my fans on OnlyFans are constantly telling me how beautiful I am.
One guy on Facebook said, I think you can correct me, but said something the other day. It's too bad you're so beautiful, but no. What was the word you used?
He said you're gorgeous. It's too bad that you
no
have no
dignity.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is kind of crazy, right? That someone would think that they have the right, seeing a picture, to then send that off.
Yeah. And my comment to that was, thank you. And it's too bad that you're unkind. And then I blocked him and erased him from my life because I don't want to be exposed to negative stuff. On the other hand, every time that happens, one gets stronger and firmer in one's belief and in what you're doing in life and so on. So it's all good. But you're right that the Facebook demographic is an older demographic. And for some reason, there is a bitterness and a snarkiness there that I have not experienced on my Instagram followers, which is so incredible. I mean, out of 120,000 people that follow me on Instagram and, the millions, how many, I don't even remember, maybe you do. How many millions?
17.8 million on that one video.
So out of those tens of millions of people that watch my reels, that there are so few negative comments, it blows my mind. Like, it is so brilliant and so amazing. On Facebook, it's been quite alarming to see, that the number has risen. It's still minuscule by comparison to positive ones. Let me just be clear about that. It really is. And so I'm so grateful for everybody that follows me on all platforms. And there's so many amazing guys on Facebook that have been saying such lovely things. And it's not as though, and here's the other thing, talking of that people always say, too bad she's so insecure. She needs validation from putting her shit on Facebook and Instagram. And I'm like, are you insane? I'm a woman in business, you freak. Like, clearly you're not in business. Clearly you're not an entrepreneur if you don't think that getting attention is going to get you business. I'm not there because my self-esteem needs to be built. I'm there because my business requires that I get eyeballs and attention. It's that simple. I personally don't require people to like me in order for me to feel okay about myself. And so it's very interesting how people have this notion that because you're on social media and you're putting yourself out there, especially in a sexy way, that somehow you need validation in order to feel confident. And it couldn't be further from the truth. It takes a hell of a lot of confidence, actually, to put yourself out there and open yourself up for those kinds of criticisms. And the biggest part of it is, with no attention, there is no business in anybody's business anymore.
Well,
right?
And I think many people,
a brand and you're not on social media, good luck to you.
Yeah, and I think people would be surprised at how much money you actually do make on OnlyFans. And we've talked about this, is that's one of the ways of commoditizing. And I think we'll get into more of the conversation of, you're actually someone that's proud of your body and like to show it off, and always have. I still remember being on Kit's Beach with you 30 years ago with wine and cheese on a blanket, and you're like taking your shirt off. And the thought of that at the time was like, crazy. But that's not.
I know.
But
And
you know
then there
where I
was a
wanted to
cop
go?
coming, right?
I know there was a cop coming, like, put your shirt on, put your shirt on. That was when I was like young and worried about being arrested, as the good banker that I was. But, when you were talking about that, do you think that people, no one's going to come up to you in the street and say, oh, it's too bad you're so beautiful, no dignity. Do you think that people just feel like they can do it because there's no repercussions, and they have no relationship with you? They don't know you. They're obviously insecure and unhappy with themselves. And we've talked about that before, that it, to me, always seems like it's more about the person saying the shit than, where it's going towards. And
Yeah.
do you think, we talk about kids bullying, but adults, grown adults that have been around and know what it's like to maybe have someone say something that's not great. Like, why does it become okay in Facebook to just send off a comment like that after seeing your picture?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're absolutely right. I think, well, first of all, everybody knows that it's how they can sort of stay behind the screen and they don't have to face anything. It's just easy to be a bully in that regard, right?
And that's what it is. You just said it brilliantly. It's bullying. Like, what
Yeah,
else do you
it's
call it,
bullying.
right?
I know. And I never have gone on and said a negative comment about anybody. Why would I? Everybody has their niche, their thing. Why would I
Yeah,
say a negative comment? Either their niche is for me or it's not. Period. End of story. Why would I
yeah,
go and rain on their parade or
right.
say something nasty about another
Or
human?
waste your time. Like, you're not going to waste your time on something you're not
Yeah.
interested in. So I find it so crazy that you want to say something negative to someone. So now you've decided you're going to waste your time on someone that you don't have respect or don't have. It just seems
Yeah.
so counterintuitive to what life should be about. Like, just move on. And the one thing I
Yeah.
also will comment, and because you and I have both seen a lot of your comments, and even when there's you've never responded negatively to someone. You've deleted it and moved on.
Yeah, if anything, I've sent them love. Like that guy, I just said thank you, and it's too bad you're unkind. And then I deleted him. I felt like that was a necessary thing to say because it did get me thinking about, and I just made a blog post about this, in what world is it dignified to be unkind to somebody and not dignified to pose, I think, tastefully in lingerie or even naked in the human body that God gave me? That's a controversial topic as well, but that I was born with. We were born naked. Like, why is it that the human body has become such a lightning rod and such a thing to be hidden? I don't believe that it was necessary to hide it. We wore clothes for all sorts of reasons. And it became some sort of a moral thing down the road as some kind of religious stigma or whatever. But the human body, I mean, when you observe nature, there is nothing else that's hiding its genitalia or its form, for that matter, in anything. And we believe we're separate from nature, and we're not. We're animals.
Mm-hmm.
And we have removed ourselves to such an extent that we feel that we can shame and belittle a human being for being natural.
Yeah.
What the hell
It
has
is
happened?
crazy.
We're
And
so weird.
there's the whole side of, there's a billions, if not $1 trillion business created around fashion, right? And that's a whole other thing when you look at all the aspects of that. And then there's the whole aspect of the human body. But what I find interesting is that, one of the things that you can judge OnlyFans, you can say whatever you want, but in the past, there's always been pornography, but it was decided by people that were running the companies, right? That they would decide, this is the woman, this is the guy, these are the ones that are going to be our porn stars, and then we're going to make them do unrealistic, crazy, things, right? Like the sex in porn, I think often isn't reflective of real life, right?
Yeah.
Gang bangs, all that kind of stuff. OnlyFans provides an opportunity or an outlet for people to be what they want to be, right? And you don't do anything crazy on it. You can be who you are, so you're not forced to do anything crazy like I think porn stars in the old days used to be. Like, it's a whole different way of people self-expressing and kind of tying into this world population of different likes and dislikes, right? Like, we know some people have a little kink here, a little kink there. If it's not illegal, big deal. It's their thing, right? If that's what turns them on, that's what turns them on.
Yeah, totally agree. And the thing is that it enables people to take back their power and
Exactly.
right. And as you said, be who they want to be and put themselves out there the way they want to put themselves out there. And so I think it's extremely empowering. And
Mhm. And
I've
people
always
choose, like, it's right. Like, if I like you, I can subscribe to you. If I don't, I can move on. Like, it's
yeah.
the easiest thing in the world, right? And
Mhm.
everyone has the power to make that decision. Just either you like that person and that's what you're going to spend time and some money on, or you're going to move on to something else. But the people decide, not a few guys in offices that used to run porn companies.
Exactly right, and that's the beauty of today's day and age, and this technological age that we live in. And I've said this to so many women that I've coached over the years in business and all of that, is what a beautiful time we live in, where you can decide what you want, and you can go and put yourself out there and open yourself up to the criticism that we were just talking about, and in so doing, strengthen yourself. You really, fortify yourself against those things, and you get stronger and stronger and stronger when you do. But go and find your own audience. What a beautiful world we live in, where you can publish your own book, where you can create your own business online, we have the power now. There are no little gray men that make our decisions anymore, unless you decide that that's the avenue you want to go down and you put yourself there. And I would recommend nobody falls into that trap of thinking they need some sort of a publisher or an agent or anything. No, you can go and create your own phenomenon online. And what an incredible time we live in. People talk about, oh, this is like terrible time and there's such turmoil in the world. I think we live in the best time on earth. And how blessed are we that we don't have to have some little gray man saying, yes, I put a tick next to you and I put a no next to you. No, none of that. Go and claim your own stuff. And whether it be on OnlyFans or writing a book on Amazon or creating your own show online or selling products, whatever it is, we have the power now. And it's beautiful. And OnlyFans has created that and I am loath to call it the porn industry, because I don't feel like I'm in that industry, just because it's a name that I don't associate with. Not that I think there's anything wrong with it. I just feel like the name has such negative connotations.
From the old
Uh,
days, like, you're left with a history.
yeah, exactly. Exactly right. So I think that it is beautiful that we all get to do whatever we want and be whoever we are. What?
I thought you said we all get to do whoever we want.
But yeah, I think we live in an incredible time, and I think everybody needs to just take their power and do their thing. And OnlyFans and platforms like it have
Right.
made that possible in the field of body. And that takes me to something I was going to talk about earlier when we said something I don't remember, that we are three-part beings, right? We are mind, we're body, and we're spirit or soul, whatever you want to call it. And in our world, it's been so weird, to go back to the criticism thing, that somehow the body is the lowest on the rung, right? That the soul is the most important, that the mind, and then the body. But, it's so interesting. The brain, and the mind is the brain in action, the brain disintegrates in the dirt just like the body does when we're over this particular incarnation. And yet somehow people associate, oh, if you're a scientist, you're great, and whatever you do to make money as a scientist is noble. You make money with your body, whether that's through photographs, whether that's through porn stars who actually have sex on camera, whatever that is, or models. You're not considered as smart or as noble. So it's just very interesting how we've decided that the body is the lowest thing out of the three parts that we are, and that it is not as noble to do anything with the body as it is with the mind or the soul.
It's funny because it really makes me think when you talk about that if everyone was a scientist, the world would be nothing, right? If you
Exactly
don't have
right.
people that are going to build it, if you don't have plumbers, if you don't have, like, it
Yeah.
really does take everything. I think
Yes.
society, to your point, and sometimes it's government, and sometimes it's media, and sometimes it's companies, decide for us what we should place importance on. But at the
Yes.
end of the day, we're all given gifts, right? We all have gifts and talents and things that we should utilize. But oftentimes that's considered not as good as the other person that's the
Yes,
scientist.
yes,
But I just find it
exactly.
hilarious because if everyone was brilliant and had a scientific mind, the world would be at a standstill. Nothing would happen. So it really is
Yeah,
about a combination. And then, we have to go back to the fact that, we talked about it earlier. We're animals. The animal instinct is around, not for everyone, but to have sex, to like procreate, like it's all built into us. Like it's so funny that we're so caught up in like, oh, you've got to be a doctor or a dentist or you're worthless.
yeah.
And I would argue now, like I think, the OnlyFans, and the one thing we have to talk about some episode is the fact that you and I complain all the time that there's no real search engine on OnlyFans. I don't
Yeah.
know why OnlyFans is missing that boat, but I can't go in and find you by putting in, someone of a certain age, brunette or whatever. There's no ability to search. You have to come in
Yeah.
from one of the other social media, which I find just crazy. But, it is interesting that OnlyFans becomes a choice for both the performer and who wants to see that person. So society can make that person in the top 1% that you've experienced, and not the porn industry. So there's been changes that I think start to recognize in a positive way, but there's always going to be
Anyway,
judges.
I mean, we all have our different views on religion and how we should live our lives. And the biggest thing for me is let's be open and at least not be unkind to somebody who chooses to live their life a different way. That's all.
Exactly.
Right? You don't have to
Yeah.
agree with it, but being unkind about it is just a bunch of bullshit.
Who has the right to judge anyone else, right? Like really, we
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
And that's one
a
of the
big
gifts
thing.
of being gay. Like you have to find gifts of when you think something. At the time I thought it was so perfect, but it taught me not to be judgy, because like I
Yeah.
know people judge me or judged more so. I hope it's getting better nowadays, but for
Yeah.
people, I think it's still the highest suicide rate of youths, and it's because of difference. Because when we're young, I think and I don't think you ever like this, but I think most people, you want to be like everybody else. When you're in high school, you just don't want to be different.
Yeah.
I think the beauty, or, when you see great parents that are supporting their kids who act a little different, do crazy things, all those are the people that are the most fun, greatest, adults there are. It's
Yeah.
the ones that were like the same as everyone else that doesn't make the world very exciting.
Totally agree with you. And I have a beef with the sort of drive to make everything homogenous in today's day and age, right? Everything look the same, everybody agree with everybody else. We have to respect our differences. It is what makes life so interesting, so beautiful, and so amazing. As you said, if everybody was a scientist, what a boring, incredible, like boring world it would be, and that there would be no procreation.
And nothing would get done. There would be no plumbing, there'd be no building, like nothing would happen.
Yes,
You need
exactly right.
construction, you need plumbers, all of that.
Yeah. And I've always
And you
just thought
need
of
people
different
that are
people.
different.
Yes,
Yeah.
different people make the world go round. I just love it when I see somebody who's bold enough to wear something that gets like everybody looking like, what a crazy person. Down at the Venice boardwalk, you see all these interesting characters. And to me, that's what makes life worth living, is people who's different. And, it's just, I don't know why there's this drive in a human being. It's a small self, it's the ego self that says, if you're not the same as me, there's something wrong with me. Therefore, I want you to convert. Right.
But that's where
it's
there,
a
I think,
very insecure outlook on life.
I think though, as a kid, as you're developing, there is a lot of insecurity. And one could argue that if your parents were more loving and more supportive, which, there's a lot of loving, supporting parents out there, that I think their kids still, because we're developing, we don't know who we are. There's so much happening. There's bullying. I think what kids go through today is much worse than what we had, because there wasn't the online stuff.
Right.
But you want to be the same. You don't want to stand out. But I think those parents that can support their kids who are different and love them and give them confidence, oftentimes the ones that come to mind are designers, male designers who are gay. When I've seen their biographies, their parents were, mostly it's the mother, but were very supportive of them. And that's why they became who they became, because they were never made to feel that's not for a guy. You can't do that. You should never do that. Like Alexander McQueen was one. I know there was others, but it sparks in my mind that, creative genius was born out of parents who loved and supported, even though
Totally.
they were different. They were made fun of.
Yes.
People called the parents crazy. People made fun
Mhm.
of the kids, made their life living hell, talked about suicide numerous times, but the parents loved and supported. And there's one kid on TikTok, and you and I have to have a whole conversation on TikTok and Instagram, because, before you and I started posting videos, I didn't even go onto TikTok. And there's this one little boy, I think he's 6, and he's making dresses for like his cousin, and people are hiring him, and he's the cutest little kid, and he has this passion and this talent, and the parents are loving and supporting it. And it's, he's now a
So
TikTok
great.
superstar. I forget his name, but
Oh my
every time I
God,
click
my
past,
darling, if the world got that, if parents got that, if they empowered their kids and made their kids feel that they could do anything and that they were incredible just the way they were, what a different world we would live in. Just that would change the world.
yeah. But I think people generally do want to be good parents. It's just not everyone has the knowledge, the capacity, or the abilities, and that's just a fact of life, right?
Yeah. Well, I could go on a tangent on this topic, and I don't think we have time for that today. But I also think that people have kids for the wrong reasons, and there's lots of people that are resentful, and once they have them, and aren't committed to being great parents, and I think that's a problem. I do. I think it's a problem.
So I'm
But
looking at it through rose-colored sunglasses, and you're looking at it through reality. Is that what you're saying?
Oops. I keep kicking the desk. No, you look, I love what you said, and I agree with you. But I think also that there are a lot of people that have children because they're radically insecure and they just want somebody to love them unconditionally. They can't give that to themselves. I get that from the love of myself and the love of God, whatever that is. That's for a whole nother day. But
yeah, see, I'm more big on the universe than God.
Yeah, well, I just call it that. It's like it's a presence, and so many people have kids to be validated in order to be loved, and that's a problem. I think that's the wrong reason to have children. And then the kid suffers. So, but that's a whole nother subject. But I do agree with what you say. I think most people are doing the best they can, and we all do the best we can with what we know and who we are at the time. And as the great Maya Angelou said, when we know better, we do better.
Yeah, and when people show you who they are, believe them.
Yeah, she said that too. It's very poignant words.
Pretty brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
The one other thing, and we probably don't have time to talk about it, but we should talk about it. When you have a conservative upbringing, you have shame around sex.
Yeah.
You don't talk about it. You don't express it. Like, it's just like your parents never had sex, you basically think, and like there's no conversation about it. There's nothing but shame filled around it, and then overlay if you're gay is even worse. And I just when we talk about love and supporting kids, it's also having the balls to have conversations with your kids at the appropriate time, that it's not a horrible, awful thing, because right now they're getting everything off the internet. I didn't have the internet, right? Like, you were lucky if you snuck a look at whatever magazine at the local store, but now I think kids have access to everything. And if you're not getting some knowledge around it, and also being taught that it's not something to be ashamed of, it's something to understand what the consequences are, understand about sexually transmitted disease, understand about pregnancy, understand about all of those things. But you have to have conversations to even get there, and then you want to fill the person's head with, it's not something to be shameful about. It's not a horrible thing. It's part of life and procreation and joy and ecstasy and all that kind of stuff. But that's not how parents talk to kids, and that's not how it's taught in school. In school, it's a very crazy,
and in society as well. In society as well. I mean, it's sex. Everybody acknowledges sex sells, but everybody also says, yeah, but sex is like, put it under the rug. We are so confused in our Western society and so screwed up about it. And it's a topic to be discussed. But my battery is running low, and we're getting
Is that
dark.
code for something?
Well, you're getting darker and darker. I don't know.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
it is dark here now, but
Yeah.
you know, that is what it, but this is usually when you
But
cut me off when we're having a regular chat anyway. You always
my
like, I'm
darling,
done.
it's been so great, but that thick cock awaits me downstairs, and I must go and cook dinner like a good little woman, you know? Because that's the other thing that people like. I'll post that I'm cooking dinner for my man, and there'll be some negative shit about that. I'm like, oh, fuck off. I'm a businesswoman. I make my own money, and I cook dinner for my man, and he does other things for me too. Like, what are you talking about? Like this thing, we should talk about this. This thing of women being like, I'm so powerful. I'm like standing. I don't open the door for me. Don't do this. Don't do that. I'm not interested in being one of those women. Oh
Yeah.
my God. I want my man to open the door for me. I want him to buy me dinner. Like, yeah, that's for a whole another day.
The other thing I find interesting that we should talk about is a whole thing where society can start going down one path and then the pendulum will shift,
Right.
right? And that's scary because you think you've made progress and then it can go back the other way.
Yeah, that's interesting. It happens for sure. Anyway, my
Okay,
darling,
well, go take your big cock
the
and do
thick
whatever
cock
you're going to do
awaits,
with it.
and
Yeah.
it's been so fun.
And, you know, really, you should check out her Instagram. You should check out her Facebook, YouTube, and also, of course, OnlyFans, where if you really want to get to know Jacquie, that's where I would go.
That's where I answer the DMs.
Yeah, exactly. Among other things.